To a Scottish Prism, the programme that is unapologetically pro-Scottish independence and anti-Westminster rule. Everything we say here is viewed through a Scottish prism. Brought to you by Barhead Boy.
Hi folks, welcome back to Through a Scottish Prism Midweek Special. It's another joyous day for me today. I've got some people on, desperate to get them on here and get you talking to them. Last Friday, as you know, we did a show, and a special show on the NEC members who were thinking of rerunning, subject to you, of course, nominating them and voting for them. And we're continuing that. It's only right that we give as many of the candidates who are going to be standing an opportunity to let you see them, to hear what they've got to say for themselves, and see if they, they're your cup of tea. I'm sure they will be. They're certainly my cup of tea. And talking of that, let me start with my Darjeeling, which is Mr. Allan Petrie there up in Dundee.
Hi, Roddy. Thanks for having me back on the Prism.
Hi, you're welcome. As I say, you're my Darjeeling tea, Mr. Petrie. Always a pleasure and never a chore. Always a joy. You keeping well?
Yeah, keeping really good. Busy as usual with the Qualities group and just promoting Alba in general. But today I've got all the kids off school because of the industrial action.
Oh, yeah, of course. I'd forgotten about that. Yeah, the old industrial action. That's a show in itself we could do on. We could do a show on that one as well.
Yeah, tell us about it.
Absolutely. And of course, there we have interrupted one of our many, and I mean many, holidays. It is the wonderful Heather McLean in the Greek island.
What do you mean? I'm just doing this for Scotland. Every time I go away, something momentous happens. When I was in Egypt, Nicola Sturgeon resigned. When I was in Malta, she was arrested. So, I'm only doing this for Scotland,
I better have my laptop on so I can just follow events in case anything happens.
I know.
See if it's true. But welcome, Heather. Nice to see you. Sorry to interrupt your holiday. Or maybe
No, it's all right. I'm coming home tomorrow anyway, so.
Oh, well, come home into the old clays and porridge.
Yeah.
As they say. And of course, we've got a newbie to come on today. A lot of people will know her. She's a wonderful person, hard worker, and a joy to be in the company of. It's Leanne Tervit.
Hi, Roddy. Thanks for having me on. As you said, first time on Prism.
Well, I hope you enjoy it. I hope you come back the second time.
I'm sure well.
Oh, I'm looking forward to it. And to make up the gang, we've got David Henry down there in Aldreekie. I believe you're in Edinburgh. You're in Edinburgh at the moment, David?
No, I'm now in Glasgow. I'm trying to pick up your accent.
Well, it's easy. It's much more. It's much sexier than all these things. Tell you, much better.
It's very sunny.
Yeah, you sure it's Glasgow? Are you sure?
Yeah, no, it's sunny
anyway,
all of a sudden.
There you go. Yeah, the sun shines on the righteous. That's what they say. Anyway, folks, you're all seeking nomination on the NEC for the upcoming year for the Alba party. And although a couple of years, Allan and Heather, I'll start with you if I may, Allan. You've had a year on the NEC. And have you enjoyed that year?
It has been brilliant, Roddy. The amount of work that the NEC do and what a team it's been. All working together to promote Alba and especially independence. It has been a tremendous year. It has. And we've done so much, and we've brought Alba up from absolutely nothing to now hitting 4%, which will give us seats in the Scottish Parliament.
Have you had a highlight of the year?
Highlight of the year, it's just seeing the party rising, to be honest with you, because it is rising, and because of the Scotland United campaign that we were running and the SNP's refusal, it's now exposing the SNP as not being the party for independence. It's Alba who are trying to work with everyone to get to the independence. And when you're on the streets, you're actually hearing that now from people. They know about Alba, they know about our policies, and they know that we are very genuine and we have the backbone to deliver.
You better believe it. You better believe it. And Heather, you've also had a year on the NEC. Have you enjoyed your year? Has it interrupted your holiday schedule for a start?
No, I work my holiday schedule around the NEC. Yeah, I've had a great year on here. Despite holidays, I've never missed a meeting in person or on Zoom I've never missed an NEC meeting, and I've tried to, get out and about and spread the Alba message. I've been out campaigning with Denise, canvassing around the doors, and like that, as Allan said, the message is getting out there. People are scunnered with SNP, but the more we're out leading by example in the NEC, out there spreading the message, more people are coming round to us now. A lot of people really didn't know much about Alba, but the message is getting out there, and I see the NEC as we've got to lead by example, and that's what we've been doing.
Yeah, I think, Alex Salmon certainly getting more television coverage and more media coverage, which is got to be, it can only be good for the party, and it's the awareness of the people out there. And have you the highlight this year, Heather, that you've...
Highlight?
Well, come on to me.
I think one of the highlights was being asked to go, to go down to London, to Westminster, to hear Neil's bill, and I thought that was it's made me all the more determined that we don't want there. But it was a great experience to go down and hear about that.
David, can you mute your please, David? Can you mute it, please?
There you
go. Sorry, Heather, on you go.
No, going down to London, going to Westminster, just seeing what it's all about down there, and it's made me all the more determined that we really don't want to be part of all that nonsense. But it was a great experience to go down there and see, the press conference where Neil was, talking about his bill. So it was just, that was one of the highlights. And I think the other is, just seeing the party, increase its percentage in the polls. I think that's something that makes me feel proud to be part of this, and proud to be part of the NEC that's making it happen.
Absolutely. And Leanne, you're not yet. You've been, I know, kind of encouraged, shall we say, to stand. We have high hopes of you. You're such a rising star in the party. You've had a very busy year. Although you've not been on the NEC, I mean, everywhere people go, they meet Leanne, whether it's at George Square, whether it's on a march, whether it's wherever, you're there. Have you had a good year?
It's kind of been a year of firsts for me. Anything that's kind of thrown at me, I've just jumped in there with 2 feet and dealt with it. And I think I've came up swimming, because after all these firsts, I come away from it quite buzzing. At a qualities event, the pressure was on there. It was the first one was on my patch where I grew up in a deprived area called Abbey View. I sought out the venue. I knew the people there. We had the stalls, we done leaflets, we went through the doors, we put the legwork in, and we had a really, really good event. We got a lot of leaflets out, a lot of the women's leaflets out. We've got people registered to vote. We've got a lot of locals coming there, so it wasn't just Alba people. It was locals. It was the first time I'd chaired an event. It was the first time I'd spoken at an event, and just the way it went so well, and I was so glad after that. I mean, the week running up to it, I was nervous. The day I couldn't eat or anything, but I went home and had a fish supper at the back of it because I enjoyed it so much. But I've got a lot of ambitions for Alba. I take everything sort of from a view from where I come from poverty, because I feel like poverty is just the biggest driver of inequality. Absolutely. That we've got. So I mean, I've got huge ambitions for Alba, to keep showing first and foremost that we are a party of independence. I think we are achieving this through our actions, our hard work and our graft, because we are a bunch of grafters. We've always had independence front and centre, and that's the reason I joined. I was sat in the SNP, I was a member of the SNP, just totally disillusioned, nothing was happening. I'm still seeing my pals suffering, my friends, family, people dying. And when Alba was formed, I thought, right, here we go. This is independence, first and foremost. So I was straight in there. We're very much like member-led. Everyone's encouraged to share their ideas, bring their views forward, and bring their opinions forward. I'd like to see a bit more involvement in our schemes. All of us in the equalities group are obviously doing that. And I think with a fair bit of effort in using Denise's data, we can get into the schemes and kill two birds with one stone. We can canvass, we can hold stalls, we can also get people registered and make sure they've got voter ID at the same time, because people in our schemes believe that nobody cares about them, that politicians are all the same, parties are all the same. And I think if Alba were visible and more visible in our schemes, then prove to them that we do care and we do want their votes. I mean, in 2015, the schemes came out and voted. They had hope then, and we need to get that hope back again and get people.
Yeah, we do. I think it's a great. Absolutely, we shouldn't. We should differentiate ourselves by turning up when it's not an election.
Yeah.
It's easy to turn up when there is an election, but when there's not one, that's when you can prove that you care. So why is it, Leanne, that you've decided that you want to be on the NEC? Subject, of course, to all the democratic votes, etc.
You know, I think I'm outspoken. I come from a different angle from most people. I don't think there's many people come from a council scheme and a poverty background like I do that wants to get involved politically. I'm really quite new to all this, so I'm not sure of what everything to expect. But I do have good ideas, I do have good opinions, and I'm not scared to speak up. I'm not backwards and coming forward. I'll attend these meetings religiously. I'll be there. Obviously, I've got caring responsibilities as well. I've got more caring responsibilities now, to be honest. But I will be on there and fighting for normal people. You know, give my views from my angle and from where I'm coming from, because I think that's important. I mean, I always feel like anything to do with policy and that you need to look. Although they look at all the Equality Acts and the categories in the equality, you need to look things from a poverty point of view as well, because if any policy is going to have a detrimental effect on someone in poverty, a vulnerable person, addicts, anything like that, then it should be taken back to the drawing board and sorted out. I'm disappointed in the SNP. Some of their policies have a detrimental effect on people in poverty right now. So why were those policies brought in? You know, so just a different view. As I say, there's not as many people from that background get involved. So let's show people that we can get involved and our opinions do count and our views matter.
Absolutely. Is there any truth in the rumour that you spend most of your week finding wool for your mum so she can knit dolls?
I don't need to, because Allan Petrie, gave us bin bags full of wool, so she's kept going for the foreseeable. She's doing a project just now that'll be on Twitter in the next week or so, and I'm sure you'll get a laugh at it.
Good. I'm actually tempted to speak to Alec and see if we can have a new office bearer made up for wool or something. the wool convener. Yeah, and get Margaret on board. David, last but not least, have you had a good year?
You're
on mute, mate. You're on mute.
There you go. It's been an interesting year. I've been out and about, as some of you all know.
Everywhere.
Yeah, they can't stop me, despite them trying to. Yeah, I was in Girvan recently. Obviously, I was out campaigning in Bells Hill. Girvan, despite the rain, because it was a pretty rotten day on polling day. It's great to be, I think, at polling stations and meeting voters, and also just as you know, I drive around with a PA system, etc. And the results and the reactions you get are very telling. So that I think Alba has a lot more support out there than we're seeing yet at the ballot box. So we have to, I think one of our priorities going forward next year must be to get people to register to vote and get them to vote, and also postal votes. The Conservatives use postal votes. And even when it's raining, which it was last week, so our vote wasn't great, but it was a definite increase, which is good to see. But the postal votes was over 90% Conservative. So what does that tell you? It tells you their voters are using the postal vote, and it isn't affected by the rain. So I think we should be looking at that. I haven't put myself forward before for the NEC because I had too many other things on, and I know that it does take quite a bit of a commitment. But we've got a target, which is in 2026, and we need to win seats. Scotland can't last any longer in this union. You know, we're all paying for it. And therefore, I think the NEC can help shape Alba's future and policy development.
And have you the highlight this year?
A highlight? Yeah, well, it wasn't so much a highlight because it was quite a traumatic day. But while my mum was in accident and emergency, I got phone calls saying, "Have you seen the news?" And I obviously hadn't seen any news. It turned out Nicola Sturgeon had been arrested. I went, "All right, okay, oh, good." So that was the highlight, I think. It's been a long time coming. I think, I tell you what, one of the highlights is just seeing our vote in our by-elections going up, and long may that continue. So that's a highlight.
Good. As you'll see, folks, on here along the bottom, there's a conference at albaparty.org. Now, as I said last week, and I'll say again today, there are 4 wonderful guests here, and myself. If you think we're suitable to put on a ballot paper, if you could, we've got now, we're all just ordinary members here. We're not going for any of the offices. We're just ordinary members. And if you want the ballot on the ordinary members, if you email conference@alba.org, and you can do it as many times as you like and nominate as many people as you like. Now, we will have more people on here as time goes by. We don't know yet who's been nominated and who's standing. Oh, we do know one person has the knowledge they have already got 20 nominations and they're standing. Well, I'm planning to have them on the show. They know. None of the rest of us do. But there you go. These things happen. And so that's where we are. Anyway, back to you, Allan. While this is going on, what are you hoping to see this year and upcoming year through the NEC first? And then we'll talk about the party.
I'm hoping through the NEC we'll have better communications within the whole party. We've got to make sure every single member of this party feels a sense of worth. Because from the lowest level to the highest level, we're all in this for one reason and one reason only, and that's getting independence for our country. Now, the only way that we could deal with the things that Leanne's quite rightly said about poverty and substance abuse is by having the powers through independence. And we've got to get that through to the people. Because our opposition, including the SNP, keep saying to us, "What there's more important issues, like so the cost of living." Well, the biggest problem is the cost of this union, because that is what's causing the biggest problems. And until we get independence, we will never, ever sort out the cost of living or drug addiction or poverty or anything else. We need that, and NEC have got to make sure that our party is ready for that fight.
Indeed they do. What about you, Heather? What you hope to see with the NEC this year?
Well, they've got a great team at the moment, so whoever is elected for the next NEC.
The Greek Island internet has gone back to the beach. Till Heather comes back, let me ask you the same question, Leanne. You're back. You're on mute now. You're now muted, Heather. Okay, if anyone can lip read. Heather, you're on mute. Okay. Keke, can you take Heather out and tell her she's on mute or something, or take her off of mute? Anyway, you go, Leanne.
Well, I'm going in blind to the NEC, really, because I've not done this before. Again, another first. I only got sort of politically involved 2 or 3 years ago at the start of lockdown. That's when I got time to start to delve into things and look into things. But I mean, I'm going to be looking for a bit of guidance, and obviously, and I'll need to find my feet in there for a wee while first before find out. But hopefully I can make a good contribution. Like I said before, outspoken. I can see where things could be better. And that's not being a member of the NEC. That's just being a member of Alba. I can see where things could be improved. And as I say, I'm not shy. I'm one for speaking up and speaking my mind. We're all here for the same reason, and that's for independence first and foremost, because Scotland is broken. Everything's broken. NHS, justice, poverty, addictions. It's everything's gone wrong, and it's only with independence that we can fix this. So to keep Alba on track with the independence message first and foremost, that's what we need to do. Everything else, I mean, it can't take a sidestep. We can still create good policies going forward. But we really need independence as an urgent priority, and we need to keep looking at ways to get us there. As I say, I'll need a lot I won't need a lot of guidance, but I'll need some guidance, and I'll find my feet. But I'm really quite quick at finding my feet. You know, I do get dropped in at the deep end, never spoken at conference, never chaired a meeting, never done a speech. I'm speaking at Edinburgh all under one banner in a couple of weeks' time. I'm writing articles on that now as well. I've never written before in my life. I left school at 16, so I had never done that. I think that's about 4 that I've written now. So keep doing what I'm doing. Hopefully give good input to the NEC from my point of view. Say I'm not backwards and coming forwards, and I'll tell people when I think things need improving and things need looked at, you know.
Excellent. David, I know you're in a hurry, so I want to get you in and get you to say a few things before you leave. We want to get you the votes, my friend. What do you see with the NEC that you hope to contribute, and you hope to see the NEC contributing to the cause?
Well, first of all, I have to say, I think I've seen the party grow. I was very involved in the SNP. I didn't want to get that involved in Alba, just because I know how much time it takes. And so even though I wasn't involved in the NEC, so what do I want to see him do with it? I think I'd like us to focus, it's been touched on already, in engaging with our membership. I'd like the membership to feel that the people on the NEC are there to represent them and to help guide the party towards success. I've been hearing that we've got some very talented folk in the party who have experience of doing different things. It would be good to see us share that knowledge and those best practices across the party so that we can all learn from each other. I mean, I was speaking to Denise Finlay on the polling station, and she was telling me some of the things that they were canvassing out there, and where the areas that they've been canvassing had far better turnout for us than the places that we just leafleted. Well, this is the message we need to get out to the LACUs, and to share that expertise so that we can all benefit from it. So I'd like to see us do that. I'd like to see us communicate a bit more, but also I'd like to see us help shape. I thought it was very useful. There was a perfect example at the National Council where we were asked to give a vote and debate whether or not we should put up a candidate in Rutherglen. I was there. I made a speech against us putting somebody up for the obvious reasons, I thought. And that, I think, would be nice to see that happening more often. I think the branches plus the members need to know that we're there to represent them and help guide the party to bigger and greater things. So that's what I'd like to see happen in the next 12 months. And Heather pointed on this, that she's been on the NEC before and never missed a meeting. Well, that's what we need. That's what I would intend to be doing too. I wouldn't be putting myself forward for it if I wasn't prepared to put in the effort and turn up. So hopefully bring a slightly different point of view sometimes. I try to think of all the sides before. I mean, you'll probably, members all know I've made a number of speeches at conference. Sadly, this time I'm not going to be at conference because I'm going to be in Cyprus. So I can't be in 2 places at once. But I will be thinking of you all.
On my app.
Well,
you have the whole
by the
day, there's no.
I could join you by the pool. I could join you from the pool side.
Maybe the handcuffs will happen when you're away.
Yes.
I believe
I'll leave
the
the
reason you're going
keys.
to Cyprus for your holiday and missing conference is because
I know, and it's the first one, and it's
your turn to buy a drink, and insteed you've decided to.
That's why I decided to go on holiday. Yeah, you're not conning me into that again. No, I listen. I think first of all, the NEC is very important because it's the guiding body that guides the party and helps create policy, etc. So it's an important role, and it's good that there's people from all walks of life going to be on it. So I'm hopeful and look forward to it.
Yeah, I think you're right. I'd like to make a comment on the National Council. I think that was a great idea there. We discussed it at the NEC and passed that on to the National Council. But of course, that can't be for every election and it can't be for every seat. But I think it showed that the party is democratic and tries to involve its members, whereas some of our opposition parties that we're opposing every week have little or no democracy. Not that we're talking about anyone specifically. And on our NEC, I should say, folks, is that there are no appointees. There are only members who are elected, either office bearers or ordinary members. You, the Alba members, elect. No, Alec doesn't appoint them. Tasmania doesn't appoint anyone. They may have favourites. I mean, that's allowed. Everyone's allowed to have a vote in a favourite. They may. But they don't appoint, unlike the SNP, and bring in groups. It's a very democratic party. It's a very democratic NEC. And I just want to make that clear now. Heather, you get cut off in the middle of your can we hear you now? Good.
Yeah, on that being a very democratic group, we're all encouraged to give our views as well. And we don't always agree, but then that's okay, because not everybody's going to agree on everything. And I see myself as a sort of a conduit between the members who will ask me something and the people who are sort of responsible for running the party. So, if any member comes to me with then I will pass that on. So that's that's another role of being on NEC, to listen to the members' concerns, the members' ideas, and bring them forward, for consideration. We're not all right all the time, and there's a wealth of talent in our party, a wealth of people who have real experiences of jobs, of careers, of just life, and they have ideas as well, so if we're a real democratic party, then we need to listen as well as spout off.
Yeah. Well, let's see, we're not lost David. David has had to go to another appointment, so we thank him for his contribution. On what we're talking about, what Allan, that David mentioned before he left there, was that in the areas where we canvassed, we found great returns. In fact, I think Denise mentioned something like 8% on those areas. Now, I'm a great believer.
12% somewhere, Roddy, I think.
12%. There you go, 12%, even better. Now, I was in sales and marketing all my life, and cold calling. We call it canvassing in the political world, but cold calling was the bread and butter. So my middle name is Getty, and the water off the duck's back. But a lot of people are petrified, Allan, of knocking on the doors. It is the greatest thing. I mean, for example, I know from a sales and marketing being in my game, 99% of the leaflets we put in the door go from the letterbox to the bin without even being read. You've got only 1% ever even get read, and 50% of the people who read it don't like you anyway. They're just looking at other reasons not to like you. So, well, you need to put out a leaflet now and again. Canvassing's the way. Now, I am going to advocate, and I'm going to be looking for allies. I think we should have trainers in every single LACU to train people on how to canvass, to try and get them to understand that it's, people telling you to get lost, that'll happen. I mean, all those was I mean, here who've been campaigning for a long while, we know what happens on the door sometimes. It's not, but you've just got to go with it. It's made up for, Alan, when you get a goodie. But what would you think about the idea of training up people in every LICU to train the members to canvass?
Yeah, I mean, I quite agree with you, 100%. I mean, people are more frightened of what doesn't happen on the doorstep than actually what does happen. Now, you'll remember, Roddy, when we were in the SNP, going back many, many years ago, when independence wasn't the popular thing. We were getting bricks thrown at us, we were getting abuse thrown at us, and McLean's by-election when the Orange Order rush us. It's no longer like that. Alba is being treated very, very well on the doorsteps. And I'll give you an example. Myself and my wee mucker, wee Annie, were in... I can't remember exactly where it was, but we were out in the streets, and this old woman come out, because the sun was scorching. This old woman come out with a cup of water for us, because we looked well. We're all sweaty and really knackered, but she come out, and that's the feeling that you're getting from people now. They're welcoming. Now, if you go to doorsteps during Coronation Street, that's a different story. So just watch when you're going to the doorsteps.
Well, the football's on.
Yeah, I mean, you've got taught all that in training. And some areas are probably better canvassed during the day. Other areas are better at night time. So it's just getting training and getting information back from your members of when they would be available to go out. Because I would never ever put anyone out on their own canvassing. I would always put them in pairs.
And women should never go out canvassing on their own either. That's another thing.
No, and the other thing is to realise when you're canvassing, you're not there to persuade people. That's not your job. Your job's out there is to identify our voters. That's all. Not to, and I mean, I remember one time the Labour Party, when I lived in Barrhead, they came to my door, and before I got my SNP posters up, I know, and I was so enthusiastic with the Labour Party, and I wanted to meet the candidate and come in and have a cup of tea, and come in, cup of tea, I've got some nice shot, and I had them in the house for about an hour. By the time they come back the next day with a candidate, I had the SNP back. You could see them standing outside the door. They used bad words. It was terrible. They weren't happy. And then one of my neighbours who was in the Labour Party came out and had obviously said to them, "Did you not know who he was?" So you mustn't get yourself caught up in conversation. You're there, you'll have specific questions. Everyone will be guiding you, and you'll be trained, as Alan said, Nancy, and you'll go in there, you'll ask those questions. Well, that's all you want, and you move to the next door. Don't get involved in debate. It's actually, when you get going to it, it's really enjoyable. As I say, when you get to one, when you find they're all enthusiastic. Wee anecdotal story before I come to you, Leanne, my dear friend, is I went to one day and I knocked on the door, and as I knocked at the door, I looked down, it was one of those Union Jack doormats. I thought, oh, hello. But it's too late now, and the door opened, and it was this woman, and I introduced myself from Scottish National Party. Oh, yeah, it's Alba, want there. And she must have seen me looking down at the doormat. Oh, she said, that's my son. She said, he's in a different plan. We don't bother about him. She said, but the rest is in the house. There's another 4 votes. We'll all be voting for the SNP. And it just shows you, if I hadn't knocked that door, and she also said to me, you're the first person from the SNP that's knocked on my door. And I thought, I wonder why, Hen, I wonder why. But till you knock on the door, you don't know. And that's what we need to know. Exactly. We need to know where our voters are. And that's how we'll get them, because we don't have millions of pounds to spend on the television adverts. And we don't get the publicity, so we have to do it by hard graft.
I think that's why SNP were so successful, Roddy, because they could identify where the vote was, because they built up the canvassing information over the years. And I remember, when I was in Dundee, and I would go out with envelopes addressed to people, and I thought, why am I not putting a leaflet in every door? And it was because they didn't leaflet every door. They put out leaflets or targeted letters to the people they knew were their supporters. And we have to get into that position with Alba, and the only way to do it is going out and canvassing. And I know that it's a scary thing, because it's a scary thing to knock on a stranger's door. Yeah. But it's really, once you get into it, you kind of have your 4 questions that you're going to ask. And you asked about highlight, one of the things that that I thought was really, I'll mention, when I was down in Girvan, I knocked on the door, and this lady came to the door and, you know, asked my question, who would you normally vote for? And she said, oh, she says, I'll be voting Conservative because my son is the Conservative candidate. And I thought, all right, okay. And I said, no. So quickly I was thinking, like, what have we got in common with the Conservatives? And it's the gender recognition stuff. So I said, well, what do you think about the gender? Oh, no, that's terrible, terrible, terrible. And I said, well, you know, this is where we have, and you know, we're in common with you. And actually, to be quite honest, we have to work with other parties. You know, we have to find a common ground, because our parliament's not meant to be adversarial in the same way as it is in Westminster. So we do have to find common ground in things that we can work together on, things that we have in common. And I think that's why Alex Salmond was successful in government, because he worked along with other parties to achieve the things he wanted. So I came away from there, and she promised me that she was going to give Alba her second vote. So to me, that was a wee highlight. That was a thing that I thought was a wee personal achievement. I've got the Tory party candidate's mum to give Alba her second vote. So that was it.
Well, if I find common ground with Tories, it will be quicksand. That's the only common ground I've got for them.
Yeah, well, the women's Roddy, you know, we have got common.
Well, I find myself, I don't find anything I've got in common with Tory, I've got to be honest. But Leanne, you're not scared to go and knock on doors, are you?
No, not at all. I've not actually been out canvassing. I agree with you 100% in what you're saying there. It just ties in with what I was saying earlier, where Denise's targeted areas, the data that she's got. Each LACU could be creating small canvassing teams just now. Just getting people trained up, giving them a shot in the door, working out what questions to ask. And like you said, like Heather was saying, finding common ground. I done that during the council elections campaign. I was out on my own, knocking doors, but it was absolutely delightful weather at the time. So there was a lot of people in gardens. So instead of posting anything through the door, I would be stopping and, you know, discussing the garden for a wee while, and then start talking. They ask about the leaflet, they ask about who we are, where we're from, what we're standing for. And I'm the same as Heather. I went to Crossford and I got a Tory second vote at the council elections, which was quite bizarre, to be honest, given where I come from. But yeah, just get people out, get them trained up. But it's not a scary thing. It probably is a scary thing to start with, because I find every first thing that I do quite scary. But then once you've done it once or twice, it's not so scary anymore. I quite enjoyed going down round doors in the council elections, maybe because I'm such a blether anyway. But and it did hold me back a wee bit.
It's so, but see, at the end of your canvassing, when you go back to the rooms or the cafe or the pub and have a beer and share your experiences with your colleagues, that's also part of it. And there's so many funny stories. I keep thinking I could write a few. But the last Tories, the last time I was canvassing, knocked on a Tory's door, he asked me to do something that's anatomically impossible. But
we need to discover where our voters are. We need to discover where in our target areas that we need to target, because we don't have like an infinite number of campaigners, an infinite number of leafleters, and if we can find where we need to go, then it benefits us all, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, that's the thing, Alan. I remember from myself in marketing days, we used to have a hit rate. We knew that for every 100 customers we got in touch with, we would get X amount of appointments, and from X amount of appointments, we would get X amount of sales, which we get as X amount of revenue. That's the way we did it. Now, the same applies now to me. Politics is just sales and marketing. Now, without the big salaries and the nice cars. And it's as simple as this: if there's 100 doors in a street, and we know that 8% of those people are going to vote for us, how do we find who the 8% are? We knock on 100 doors. That is the only way. If there's ever comes up with something that can edit quicker, we'll be the first to tell you. And that's why it's important, Alan, that we find canvassers and train canvassers. I think in the coming year, it's that apart from finding candidates for every seat or for every seat we intend to fight, I can think of nothing more important than training our members and involving our members in canvassing. Can you?
No, the other good thing about having canvassers are they're in the local area and they could pick up on local issues that we could then address. Because we don't know everything that's happening in every area, but when you're canvassing, people are open with you on the doorsteps and they will speak to you. And if we are able to sort out that problem or get the candidate come over to speak to them, that makes them feel important and being felt like they've been heard from a politician. So that is also important. Now, I mean, on the issue of common ground with other parties, we've also got to be very careful of other parties saying what they don't mean. Because when we have the Tory party saying that they are defending women, why has women's wages been different from men's for so many years? Labour are now saying that they don't support self-ID, but they do. It's like their bonfire of quangos, their abolition of the House of Lords. They're saying something to get votes. You've got the Family Party saying that they're again for the women, but they want to refuse women to have an abortion, tell women what to do with their bodies. So we've got to have the whole policy put forward to see if we do actually have common ground or were there just a lot of chancers. Because in Alba, our policies are very clear on women. We will defend women's rights. And not only are we going to defend women's rights, we're going to put them out of the reach of politicians by putting them in a written constitution. So only the people can change that. So
Absolutely. Yeah, it is indeed. The canvassing, you've done a ton of canvassing in your time, Heather. Do you think you could pass that knowledge on to others in the LACUs? Oh, have we lost Heather again? I'll be back in the room.
Yep. Every time it starts buffering, it bumps me off, and then when I come back in again, I can't hear anybody, so I've got to come out and come back in again. It's
all right.
We really
so
can't
the question
complain
was,
about our internet.
The question was, do you think that you feel able to pass on your canvassing knowledge to others within the LACU?
I'll have to say that again because I didn't hear. Sorry.
Right, well.
Go on.
Oh, we're having a terrible time with you here, Heather. Not good. Leanne,
It's
I'm sure I know.
It's totally hopeless.
We've also got a bit of a delay as well, I think. Leanne, I have no doubts that you would be able to pass on knowledge to others and be a trainer. Do you fancy that job?
I think everybody should be training in Alba. If you've got knowledge on something, then pass it on. Because then you're just creating more knowledge within the party. That's what the qualities team do with me. Certainly when I joined their qualities team as a total newbie, didn't have a clue about how things worked, and the knowledge that I've got from Heather, Allan, Lita, Jackie, Dave, Eva, absolutely everybody has been huge. And then of course you'll pass that knowledge on. I think training needs to be looked at. I would appreciate some kind of training. They did say a sort of training one on motions and on submitting motions, which I intended, which is good. But we need, I think, a bit more of that. But like you said, going out, once I'm trained up on canvassing out there, yeah, I'll take others out canvassing. Like I said, I'll probably talk too much, but
that's what you mustn't do. That's what you mustn't do. You've got to get those 100 doors.
Yeah, taught how to nip that in the bud a wee bit. But do you know as well? I mean, you've got people in politics that just lurk, and I was a lurker to start with. But some of these people that lurk, I call them small voices, and sometimes small voices have got the best ideas, and the best views, the best opinions, speaking from their experiences and encouraging those small voices out as something that I'd like to do, you know, just to get people talking. I was one of them. I just sat in meetings and didn't really say much and just worked and just listened. And once I started talking, you couldn't shut me up. So getting those voices out, because I mean, you've probably got a wealth of people in Alba that have joined Alba and that just sit and they'll listen, and I bet you a lot of them have got a lot of very, very good ideas, very good for motions, for resolutions, for plans, for ideas. And it's encouraging some small voices out. And I feel like doing that at a local level would be quite a good thing. And getting people more involved. We need to get everybody was involved in 2014. Even our schemes were involved in 2014, and we need those people as well. We need those votes as well. So we need to get people fired up again about independence. Let them see that we care. We care about their votes. We care about independence to change their lives. So I'd be well up for that. Yeah.
Great stuff, Heather. I hope you can hear us, and we'll get you in. Actually, your picture froze with a beautiful smile on your face. You should have just left it. It'd be a great campaign post. It was a wonderful picture.
Right.
Leanne was talking about small voices with great ideas, and that's what I think is great. And I think I would like to see more national assemblies, national councils for the ordinary members. But it's not just the NEC are coming up with ideas or policies. And I think it's a great thing in our party that we've got National Council, National Assembly, where the members can feed in. And I would like to see better ways or other ways increasing that the members can feed into that.
Yeah. That's what I like about all these little signal groups as well, you know, because people, you know, as Leanne was saying, some people just lack the
No. This is proving a problem. Maybe this time she comes back in. Can you back in?
I'm back in, yeah. The signal groups that we're in, because, you know, there's lots of people who dislike, but then there's other people who chat and come up with ideas and post links to articles, and it's all knowledge, and I mean, that's been my profession for like 45 years as a teacher. You know, it's passing on knowledge and learning, because you never ever stop learning, you know, none of us know everything. There's always something that you can learn from someone else, from actually listening and not just talking at people. And I think politicians tend to talk at people instead of listening to them. And I would like to think that in Alba, we're a listening party. When we go out and we speak to people, we're not just hearing what they say, we're listening to what they're saying, and then we go back and then we act on that. Because otherwise, you know, you're just talking in a vacuum. You're just really like talking about yourselves all the time. And I think a lot of politicians don't take into account the small voices, the voice that the people who don't get a chance to say what's bothering them, what they would like. So yeah, I think we have to be a listening party, and I think that's one of the things that we've been doing with these equalities. Roadshows. We've been going out and we've been speaking to folk, and it's not just Alba supporters, it's ordinary people, and they're getting a chance to ask questions, they're getting a chance to you know, say what they think, and then, and we're taking that and we're going back and we're saying, what can we do about this? What policies can we come up with that are going to help these folk? Because, you know, I mean, I did one of these roadshows in Dundee. I mean, I've had a good life, and I've been very lucky. But because I'm in a profession where I see all sorts of children from different families, there's terrible poverty, there's terrible deprivation, and it's not fair. It's not fair in a country that's wealthy. And our wealth, it doesn't stay in this country, and our wealth isn't used to help people in this country. And that's why we have got to get independence. No, not so that everybody's stinking rich, but so that everything is fairer.
So not everyone's stinking
Everybody
poor. That's what we're trying to avoid.
Exactly.
There's no stinking poor.
Exactly. I mean, nobody. I don't want to be a millionaire. I want to be comfortable, but I want my neighbours to be comfortable. I want the kids who I teach to be comfortable. I want everybody to have everything they need. They shouldn't be asking, oh, you know, can I get such and such? My pal's got, and mum's going without food because she's trying to give things to her children. You know, parents shouldn't have to be going to clothing banks in the school so that they can put the school uniform on their bairn's back. You know, every school in Dundee has got a trolley outside the door with food that parents can come and just take. What kind of a society are we that that's normal? That's appalling. You know, and we want to make things fairer, and the only way we can do that is by getting control of our own country, independence.
Yeah, let me just tell you, being a millionaire is not everything it's cracked up to be, Heather. I wish.
One of the most miserable people on the planet. I'm
an impoverished pensioner. Allan, you know, you're an old SNPer like myself, and you know what I notice in Alba, and in this NEC as well, but in the Alba party more so in general, is the camaraderie that used to be with the SNP. And that's what I enjoy most about it, is that feeling of that everyone's reading off the same page, everyone's pushing in the same direction. That's the bit I like. And that's what I want is be on the NEC to make sure we keep like that. That's what I'm saying, that we don't go off in tangents away from the membership.
Yes.
No, totally agree. I mean, I think since really about 1979, politics has been moving, and it's all been moving in the rightward direction. Mm-hmm. So you've got the Tories that used to be the Thatcherites, who are now very close to fascism. You've got Labour on the Thatcherite policies. You've got the SNP and Greens now moving into the neoliberals. We in Alba need to grasp that proper left again. This country doesn't have a left-wing organisation. Alba has to be that, because that is the side of politics that is the caring side, that look after people, to make sure everybody's equal, to make sure people have a decent income coming into their house, make sure they have a decent health service that isn't just dependent on your postcode, making sure everyone receives medication that they require free of charge, like what Alex Salmon brought in, not going to be having their prescriptions charged to them again when Labour get in, if they win the next Scottish Parliament elections. We've got to take up that ground that is gaping open, and I think Alba will be able to do that. I
think you're absolutely right. I mean, I saw an article on Twitter, I think it was someone talking about, you know, if the Tories get put out, we'll have the Socialist Labour Party in. I'd love to know who that Socialist Labour Party is. Is it a new party? It must be a new party. But the fact that our people call Labour left and socialist shows you how far right politics in the UK has actually gone. And it's quite scary, Leanne, because, I mean, I go back to 10, 15 years ago, I could never have imagined that an SNP party, the party which we were left of centre for sure, would be helping to arm right-wingers in a foreign country and would be advocating British foreign policy, or that SNP MPs would be dressing up in British fatigues and playing at British soldiers for a day, or going to Kiev and sitting behind Union flags and spouting British foreign policy. We're the last hope of the left, I would say, in Scotland. It's important, again, I think, that we keep our NEC on the left.
Definitely. I was brought up with my mum and my gran in my dad's house. My dad's a granddad. And my dad taught me how to debate, and my gran was really into politics, and she was always a socialist, and she was always a Labour supporter and a Labour voter back then. Unfortunately, Tony Blair came into power, and that was her. She just completely turned away from the Labour Party, and then was just completely all for independence. She says that nobody's going to help us in this union. We need to get our independence. No, I think Alba, we need to speak to everybody. We need to get our members up and speaking and involved more. If we can encourage them and encourage those voices out, but we need to speak to everybody. I had a conversation on my driveway last week. I'd forgot to put my cardboard bin out and it was absolutely heaving. So I phoned a lad off of one of the Facebook groups and that to come and empty my grey bin. But we sat there for half an hour on my driveway because I knew his mother at school and his mum had a really rough childhood when she was young and when she was at school, but she was a good friend of mine. And then, of course, he, growing up in a deprived area, suffered everything that comes with poverty as well. And he ended up in prison and with addictions. And there's a good ending to the story because he got help out of prison now, and he is in recovery and working away. All right, he's driving about in a van and he's emptying people's bins for him, but he's out there and he's making money and he's keeping busy for his kids. And things seems to be working. That lad is the only lad that I've ever met in my 51 years that has turned their life around from an addiction. So there was hope there. So I was speaking to him about Alba and about what we do, and he added me on Facebook. So now we're having wee chats back and forward, and he's talking to his pals and that about us, and so I mean, the word can get around. I try to speak. I know I bang on about poverty and that and inequality. I try in writing and the stuff that I've written in that. I'm trying to make people understand what poverty is. It's not being skint. That's just a tiny little part of it. I mean, the biggest part of poverty for people that are in poverty is everybody dying on us, you know, and that's not known everywhere. I mean, all I see on my Facebook is fly high, bro. That's what you say, fly high, bro, fly high, bro. That's another one and another one and another one, you know, and it's another family. And there's no families where we come from that's not been touched by that. So that's why I'm in politics, and that's why I'm left-leaning, and that's why I'm more socialist, because these people don't deserve to be where they are, and they're kept there. You know, if poverty was a choice, if they're choosing to be in poverty and choosing that lifestyle, then why is it that great grannies and mums and parents are all living exactly the same life? It's because they can't get out of it, because they make it impossible to get out of it. And poverty for a lot of people is a job and it's a wage. And you've got all these people getting paid to tackle poverty. What have they done? Poverty has not been tackled and it never will be in the union. We need independence, and then we need people in there with the ideas and the radical decisions to eradicate it once and for all.
Absolutely.
And that's what I'm in for.
You'll find a lot of right-wingers, Tories in particular, who believe that poverty and unemployment are a life choice. It's just bizarre. But they actually, that's the problem, they actually believe it because they've been told that propaganda by the Telegraph and the Daily Mail and the BBC and ITV. They believe it. It's quite disgusting.
Two-child benefit cap was all about. That's not to save money on welfare. That's to appease voters that think that these folk are scrounging off the system. That's just to gain their voters, you know.
Yeah, that's why, you know, you privatise the profits and nationalise the losses. Look, we're running out of time. Now, as you had the least time, Heather, which is unusual when it's a talking competition. You usually win that one hands down. I think you're not going to win this one either, because it looks to me as if you've gone on to mute again. Are you with us, Heather? Yeah or nay? Nope, we've lost our Heather, and we've lost our clock. The time is running out.
I got caught.
Oh, there she is. She's back. You get the last word, Heather, if you can get it in quick. Nope. Oh, she's coming back.
No, it's you know, it just buffers all the time. I don't know. Just vote for us. We'll make a great team. we all got on well. We're all motivated. We've got the best of intentions. We want to see Alba succeed. We want independence above and beyond. We want fairness for everybody. Not everybody can be equal, but we can all be fair. A fair day's pay, fair day's work. You know, everybody living
decent pensions.
You know, yeah, to the best, living your best life. Nobody should be living in poverty. And we want to drive this forward. We want to make Alba a success. We've got the motivation, we've got the drive, we've got to support, help, encourage our members and get people voting for us, because it's the only way forward. And I'm wanting Alec to be First Minister again, because basically he's the best politician that we've got. So
Indeed.
Vote for us.
So, folks,
We'll drive it forward.
you've seen the people today, Allan and Leanne and Heather and David, who had to leave us. If you think they were good representatives for you, I do, they wouldn't be on this show. For you, send a quick email to the conference at albaparty.org and nominate them to be on the NEC as ordinary members. Now, you'll see it in the descriptions. Techie will put it in the descriptions, all the names, and it's ordinary members you're electing this week, when you're nominating rather this week, and then they're voted for at conference. You put in an extra advert here, are you, Heather?
Can I just say, I've thrown my hat in for the ring for women's convener.
Oh, have you, Peter? Well, there you go.
I decided yesterday that.
So, if you want Heather to be women's convener, put it on there as you want it to be on the ballot. That's what to do. Some other bits of housekeeping, folks. On the 7th of October, Techie, do you put that up? Of course, we've got the March for Independence in Edinburgh, and I hope you're all going to be there. I am. Tickets are booked. The accommodations booked. And on the Friday night, the 6th, we will be having a Prism with a live audience. Note what I said, with a live audience, not a live Prism. I sometimes say live Prism and people think it's going out live, but it's not. So it's a Prism with a live audience. The venue is yet to be confirmed, but we'll know the next day or so, hopefully from the Edinburgh LACU. And also, at the end of October, we're doing one in Glasgow on the Saturday night of the conference. That's the 28th of October. There'll be a conference special Prism, and I hope we'll see lots of you there. And until I see you, and my friends here see you again, you and yours, please take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Through a Scottish Prism, the programme that is unapologetically pro-Scottish independence and anti-Westminster rule. Everything we say here is viewed through a Scottish prism. Brought to you by Barhead Boy.